Good morning. I'm busy reading. I knew we were coming up to a verse here. I was trying to read ahead so I'd remember what the verse means. That's the reality of it, right? Is that the Bible's a big book, and some of it is hard to understand. Other parts, not so much. Some of it's difficult to comprehend, and sometimes it's translational stuff, because going from one language to another and things aren't made perfectly clear. But we made it down to verse 11 of chapter 2 yesterday. And so now we're in verse 12. And I wrote down in my Bible what I read here. 12 to 23 is the purpose of life examined. Then I turned myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do who succeeds the king? Only what he has already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly, as light excels darkness. The wise man's eyes are his head, but a fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceive that the same event, which is death, what they're just talking about, happens to them all. So I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it also happens to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, this is also vanity, for there is no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever. Since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come, and how does a wise man die? As the fool. So what he's saying is he's realizing that obviously it's better to be wise than to be a fool, but they're both going to die in the end. Both of them are going to come to an earthly end. And so under the sun, there is no difference. Under the sun, and this is, again, Solomon's way of saying, when you have an earthly mindset, when all you're considering and all you're concerned about is what's going on here on earth, well then, under the sun, put that down just slightly, under the sun, there's no difference between the wise and the fool, the good and the bad, because they're all going to end up in the grave. And he talks about how they'll all be forgotten. Now, Solomon's not forgotten, but he's right. That, and I think the older you are, the more you'll see this, that people who were insanely famous when you were young, today, many people don't know who they are. And even now, I think of, I'm only 20 years older, 25 years older than some of these teenagers in my youth group. And it's like people who were the biggest celebrities in my teenage years, these youths don't even know who they are. And that's the idea he's saying, is that everyone's forgotten in the end anyway. So whether you were super wise and awesome or you were a fool, everyone's forgotten. And so again, like we know, yes, there are certain people. Alexander the Great. I mean, there are some people who go down in history. But again, he's just saying that the general reality is that whether you're a wise or you're a fool, you both end up in the grave. And so it's vanity, striving and striving and striving for earthly acclamation when it's all going to end the same. And once again, his wisdom is speaking of under the sun. If you take eternity out of the equation, if you take God out of the equation, he says, well, this is then what it ends up being. Verse 17, therefore I hated life, because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me, for all is vanity and grasping for the wind. Then I hated all my labor in which I toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to a man who will come after me. And I have in my notes, Rehoboam, his son, who came after him, didn't make it a week before he split the nation in two. So here's Solomon, who takes Israel to the grandest that ever was. Israel was never as big as it was under Solomon. Still today, it's not as big as it was under Solomon. And within the week, his son splits that in half. And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool. Well, there you go. He was a fool. Verse 19 still. Yet he will rule over all my labor in which I toiled, and in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. So it's funny because it becomes true. But so he's saying, I build this big estate. I establish this huge company. I build a whatever it may be. And then the person after me will just throw it all away. Then I turned my heart and despair of all my labor which I had toiled under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he must leave his heritage to a man who has not labored for it. This is also vanity and a great evil. For what has a man for all his labor, and for the striving of his heart with which he has toiled under the sun? For all his days are sorrowful, and his work burdensome. Even the night his heart takes no rest. This is also vanity. So again, he's just talking about, again, the work and the hard work, and that you've stressed you've stressed yourself out your whole life, trying to build and build and build and build and build. And then at the end of your life, it all just goes away anyway. So that's what he's saying, is striving for these earthly things, it's just going to go away. It's all vanity. Nothing, verse 24, 5 and 6. And I said, this is the part 1 conclusion. So this is part 1 of Ecclesiastes is coming to an end, and 24 to 6 is the conclusion. And I'll tell you right now, I'm going to need to look down and read, because verse 24, I believe, is the verse that took me a long time to try and interpret and understand when I taught this. And I have some notes written here, so I'm going to have to read them. So let's see what 24 is. I haven't even had a chance to read it. Nothing is better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. For who can eat and who can have enjoyment more than I? For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight, but to a sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give him who is good before God. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Okay, let's see here. Nothing is better for a man Nothing is inherently found in man that he should eat and drink and his soul should enjoy. So what I remember about this is this. Is that this is really about being content. Nothing is better for a man. The idea is nothing is good for man aside from. So, long story short, is what he's saying here is that to eat and drink and his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This isn't talking about partying. This is talking about contentment. 1 Timothy 6, with food and clothing, with these we shall be content. So what Solomon said here is that he's learned that that he can have contentment with just eating and drinking, and by that he doesn't mean, it's not like partying, but it's this idea of just life. I have a home, I have food and clothing, and it just says that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. I enjoy the work I do. I'm not working to strive for all this stuff. I just enjoy what I do. Now, for what it's worth, I don't think there's enough fun jobs on the planet for everyone to enjoy what they do. But if you enjoy having a home and eating and drinking, having food and having clothing, and you can find contentment in a simple life, just, I'm content. Well, then you have a job to provide those things, and that gives your job purpose. And if you're doing all things as unto the Lord, recognizing that God will even just reward you for being a godly person in your secular job, well, then you find contentment. And so this is his first conclusion. I might still go back and read more, because I remember spending a long time on that. Maybe the answer came too easily to me. But that's kind of what he's saying here. There's nothing better for a man than he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. And that's the idea, is being content with just having your needs met. My needs are being met. And I'm just enjoying my labor. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm finding satisfaction in my life with what God has given me. This is good, he says. This is actually something good. For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight. And so he's just saying that God will give joy. And so this is again why I say the book of Ecclesiastes isn't all, the vanity is when he goes after the world. But then here he settles, the section 1 ends with this godly epiphany. With food and clothing, with these we shall be content. And so Paul in 1 Timothy 6 is really echoing what Solomon finds here. Just being content in the stuff we have. And so that's something we all ought to be seeking and praying for, is just to be content with what we have. We're content living our lives and having what we have. So, that said, God bless you guys. Have an amazing day. And I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's Thanksgiving. I think I'll still see you guys. 6:45 is early. I'll probably still be doing my normal thing. So it's like a 50-50 if I'll be on Thanksgiving. I don't know if we have to be going somewhere or getting ready for something. So we'll see if I'm on tomorrow. But I'll see you Friday either way. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Oh, what verse was that again? So that's the end of Ecclesiastes chapter 2. So verses 24, 25, 26. And 1 Timothy 6:6. Now godliness with contentment is great gain. So I think this is essentially Solomon coming to the same conclusion as in 1 Timothy chapter 6. Godliness with contentment is great gain. And again, Ecclesiastes 2:24. Nothing is better for a man than he should eat and drink, and his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. And so that idea of just finding your peace, not food and drink like partying food and drink, but just like I've got food and drink, I've got a house, I've got a family. I should be learn to be content with these things. So there you guys go. God bless you guys and take care.